The FBI special agent. Most people picture a badge and a gun and think the hard part is the paperwork. The FBI special agent is the one who has to prove, over months, that they can be trusted with both, and most people who apply never get the chance. Of the thousands who submit an application in a given year, only a small fraction are ever invited to Quantico, and fewer still walk out the other side. What this person actually does starts long before any field office. At the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, recruits spend roughly 20 weeks in the basic field training course, cycling between classrooms, firearms ranges, and a fake town called Hogan's Alley, a full mock city built with a bank, a motel, and role players staging live scenarios so trainees learn to make arrests, clear rooms, and handle interrogations under pressure that feels real. They fire thousands of rounds to qualify on the pistol, carbine, and shotgun. One failed fitness test, one failed firearms qualification, one lapse in judgment during a scenario, and the whole thing can end. The cost of getting there is quieter than a battlefield, but just as relentless. Candidates give up their old jobs and uproot their lives on the gamble that they'll pass. They grind through background investigations that can take the better part of a year, polygraphs, and a physical fitness test measuring push-ups, sit-ups, sprints, and a timed run, all while knowing the Bureau can cut them at any stage. Many arrive already holding law degrees, accounting credentials, or years of military service, and still wash out. And that's the awe of it. The person who finally raises their right hand and takes the oath isn't just physically capable. They've been vetted down to their childhood, tested on the range, and dropped into staged crises until the Bureau is convinced they won't freeze when it's real. Out of everyone who wanted this badge, only a sliver ever pin it on. They're the baseline of this list, and the baseline is already more than most people could clear. The astronaut. Consider the numbers first because they're almost hard to believe. When NASA opened applications for its 2017 astronaut class, more than 18,000 people applied for a handful of open seats, and 12 were chosen. That's the job in a single statistic. You can be a decorated test pilot, a PhD scientist, a medical doctor, and still be one of the 18,000 who go home. The astronaut is the person who somehow ends up in the 12. Once selected, the crisis isn't the launch. It's the years of preparation for a place the human body was never built to go. Astronaut candidates train for around 2 years before they're even eligible for a mission. They log hours in the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, a pool so large it holds a full-scale mock-up of the International Space Station, rehearsing spacewalks underwater for 6 hours at a stretch, because water is the closest thing on Earth to weightlessness. They fly T-38 supersonic jets to build split-second decision-making. Many learn Russian because the language is a working requirement aboard the station. The path to that seat is a lifetime of stacked achievement, not a single course. Most astronauts arrive with advanced degrees in engineering, science, or medicine, thousands of flight hours or both, credentials that each took years of their own. Then they compete against everyone else who spent their life the same way. The sacrifice isn't a few brutal months, it's decades of pointing every choice toward a door that stays closed for almost everyone who knocks. And the payoff is rarity in its purest form. Since the beginning of human spaceflight, only a few hundred Americans have ever flown to space, a group small enough to fit in a lecture hall. When one of them finally straps into a rocket, they carry the weight of tens of thousands who wanted it, and the trust of a nation that spent years deciding they were the one who could go. The Neurosurgery Resident. While most new doctors finish medical school and move toward a manageable rhythm, the neurosurgery resident signs up for one of the longest, most punishing training pipelines in all of medicine, and does it operating on the one organ that leaves no room for error. This is the person who chose the brain and spine, where a millimeter is the difference between a patient walking out and never walking again. The core duty is exactly as heavy as it sounds. Neurosurgery residency runs about 7 years after medical school, longer than almost any other specialty, and those years are spent clocking weeks that can push toward the 80-hour limit set by regulators, often for stretches that feel far longer. A resident might scrub in before dawn for a tumor resection that lasts 8 or 10 hours, then round on patients, then take overnight call where a car accident rolls in and someone with a brain bleed needs the operating room now. The stakes never let up, because the thing under their hands doesn't forgive mistakes. The cost is measured in years and attrition. Studies of general surgical training have documented that roughly 1 in 5 residents leaves before finishing, and neurosurgery is among the most grueling tracks of all. The fatigue, the pressure, and the sheer length grind people down. Those who stay give up their 20s and often their early 30s to the hospital. Missed weddings, missed sleep, holidays spent on call. They emerge in their mid-30s, having trained longer than almost anyone else in the building. The awe here isn't a washout percentage on an obstacle course. It's the quiet fact of what they can do when it's finished. A trained neurosurgeon can open a skull, navigate around regions that control speech and movement, remove what shouldn't be there, and close it back up so the person wakes as themselves. Very few people on Earth are trusted to do that, and every one of them paid for it with the better part of a decade. The fighter pilot. The washout on paper looks almost survivable now. Modern screening has pushed the advanced track failure rate down into single digits, but that number hides what the fighter pilot's body and nerves actually endure to get there. This is the person strapped to a machine that can turn hard enough to make the blood drain from their brain, expect it to fight and think while it happens. The core of the job is punishing in a way ground crews never feel. In a hard turn, a fighter can pull up to 9 times the force of gravity, 9G, which means a pilot's own blood tries to pull in their legs and starve their brain, threatening a blackout unless they clench their entire body and breathe against it on command. They train in T6 Texan II turboprops before moving up to the T-38, and then the fighter itself, learning to read instruments, run intercepts, and land on the razor's edge of an aircraft's limits. Every seat they sit in has an ejection handle, because the alternative to punching out is sometimes not surviving at all. Getting there is roughly a year of undergraduate pilot training, about 52 weeks, where a single bad check ride can psychologically unseat a student who never recovers, and where students grind through ground school on aerodynamics, weather, and navigation while flying nearly every day. Even those who make it through the wings, pinning on then compete for the small number of fighter slots against everyone else who succeeded. And that's the rarity payoff. Out of every hopeful who starts down the aviation pipeline, only a slice earns wings, and only a slice of those ever fly a fighter. When one of them takes off, they carry years of screening and a body trained to stay conscious under forces that would knock an ordinary person out cold. Few jobs on Earth ask you to think clearly while gravity itself is trying to shut you down. The Wildland Firefighter Smokejumper. Most firefighters drive to the fire. The Wildland Firefighter Smokejumper parachutes into it, dropping out of an aircraft into remote, roadless country where the only way in is from the sky and the only way out afterward is to hike. This is the rarest kind of firefighter deployed where no truck can reach. The core duty starts the moment they leave the plane. Smoke jumpers jump into rugged, mountainous terrain to attack wildfires while they're still small, before they can explode into something that levels forests and towns. They land in trees and on slopes, cut fireline by hand with chainsaws and hand tools, and work for days in heat and smoke with fire behavior that can shift in minutes into something deadly. When the fire's out, there's no ride home. They pack out their gear, often loads well over 100 pounds, on foot across miles of wilderness. The cost of earning the title is a rookie training program built to break the unready. New smoke jumpers face weeks of intense conditioning, parachute landing falls, tree climbing and letdown drills, and grueling physical standards, including packing heavy loads over distance under time. Many strong, experienced wildland firefighters arrive and still don't make it through rookie season. The training is designed to find out, before a real jump, whether a person can be trusted to land in a burning forest and function. And the rarity is stark. There are only a few hundred smoke jumpers in the entire United States at any given time, a tiny cadre for a country that burns millions of acres a year. When a fire sparks somewhere no road goes, these are the people who fall out of the sky to meet it, physically wrecked from the packout and the flames, doing a job almost no one else on Earth is trained or willing to do. The Navy diver. Underneath every calm harbor and every warship's hull is a world of zero visibility, crushing pressure and cold, and the Navy diver is the one sent down into it. While most sailors work in air and light, this is the person who does hard physical labor in an environment where a mistake with pressure or breathing gas can kill them outright. The core duty is brutal and often blind. Navy divers perform underwater salvage, ship husbandry, and construction, welding and cutting, and rigging heavy objects in water so murky they work by feel alone. They descend to depths where the body has to manage dissolved gas carefully, ascending slowly through decompression stops, because coming up too fast can force nitrogen out of the blood as bubbles, a genuine, sometimes fatal danger. They work in freezing water, inside flooded compartments, and around wreckage, doing by hand what machines can't reach. The cost of getting there runs through one of the more attrition-heavy schools in the fleet. Navy dive training is physically savage. Long pool sessions, endless conditioning, water confidence drills designed to test whether a candidate panics when their air is interrupted. and a large share of those who start don't finish. The pipeline weeds out anyone who can't stay calm when the surface is far away and the water is trying to convince them to quit. The awe is in the composure it demands. Anyone can be brave in the open air. The Navy diver has to keep a clear head sealed inside cold black water, managing their gas, their depth, and their nerves while doing precise work with their hands. It's a rare combination, the strength for heavy labor and the discipline not to panic where panic is lethal, and it puts them near the top of this list for a reason. The Green Beret. Some pipelines test whether you can suffer. The Green Beret pipeline tests whether you can suffer, think, teach, and lead a foreign army in their own language, all at once, which is why so few finish it. This is the U.S. Army Special Forces soldier whose real job is as much mind as muscle. The core duty sets them apart from other elite units. Green Berets specialize in unconventional warfare and foreign internal defense, meaning they embed with partner forces overseas, learn the local language, and train those forces into a fighting unit, sometimes spending months or years building trust in a single region. It's a mission that demands a soldier who can shoot, move, and communicate, but also negotiate, instruct, and adapt to a culture not their own. The final test of their training, an exercise called Robin Sage, drops candidates into a fictional country staged across the forests of North Carolina, where they must win over role-playing gorillas to pass. The cost is one of the longest special operations pipelines in the military. It begins with Special Forces assessment and selection, which washes out roughly 60% of candidates. And these aren't civilians. They're already soldiers. Those who survive move into the Special Forces qualification course, the Q course, which can run anywhere from about 12 to 24 months, and adds language school, unconventional warfare training, and more chances to fail. Earning the long tab and the Green Beret can consume years, and the rarity is the payoff. What comes out the other end isn't just a hardened operator. It's a soldier who can parachute into a foreign country, speak enough of the language to be understood, and turn strangers into a coordinated force. That blend of physical grit and intellectual endurance is exactly why their selection breaks most of the elite candidates who attempt it, and why the beret means what it does. The Navy SEAL. At the top of this list sits the pipeline whose reputation is its own warning. The Navy SEAL earns the Trident through basic underwater demolition/SEAL training, BUDS, where the attrition rate runs somewhere around 75 to 85%, meaning that of every class that shows up young, motivated, and physically screened, most will not finish. This is the one almost nobody survives. The core of it is engineered suffering. BUDS is built to find the exact point where a person quits, then push past it. Endless runs in soft sand, ocean swims in cold water, log carries and surf drills done wet, sandy, and exhausted. Its centerpiece is Hell Week, roughly 5.5 days of nearly continuous training on less than 4 hours of total sleep, with instructors keeping candidates cold, wet, and moving until their bodies and minds beg them to ring the bell and walk away. Most of the class's dropouts happen in the earliest phase, often during that week. The cost isn't measured in years like a residency, it's measured in how much a body and will can absorb before breaking. Candidates arrive already fit and still crumble, because the training isn't testing fitness so much as the refusal to quit when every signal says stop. Those who make it through BUDS still face qualification training beyond it before they earn the SEAL Trident. There is no way to fake it and no way to coast. The water and the cold do the sorting. That's why it caps this list. The Navy SEAL isn't the most credentialed or the longest trained person here. The neurosurgeon and the Green Beret spend more years, but no pipeline on this roster fails a higher share of the people who genuinely try it. To wear the Trident is to be one of the few who stood in the surf, freezing and sleepless, with every reason to quit, and simply didn't. That's 8 jobs, where the training is the real trial, where the badge, the wings, the beret, where the Trident is just proof that someone stayed when almost everyone else broke. Some paid in years, some in cold water, some in blood that wasn't their own. But every one of them cleared a bar most people never even reach. If a video like this is worth your time, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you've actually made it through one of these pipelines, or you're grinding toward one right now, drop a comment below and tell us which. We want to hear from the people who lived it.